How do you plan for error handling and error messages in your app? What's happening, softwarepreneurs? Welcome back to Swattage, the Software Innovation Lab. If you're new here, my name is Dale Richards. I'm a software innovator from Salt Lake City, Utah, and I love making software that changes the world. I'm building a SaaS product from concept to cash, and I'm taking you with me for the ride. If you want to change the world, build apps, grow your SaaS business, and make money doing cool software entrepreneur-related stuff, start now by subscribing and hitting the bell. So you get all excited about your new app that you've launched, you push it out there to the wild, people are using it, and something breaks, or someone is not able to use your app because there's something about it that's not working. And ultimately, there's an error. How do you handle those? And is there a way to plan for them in advance so that you don't have a whole bunch of errors or problems with people using your app? So let's talk a little bit about errors in applications. So what is an error? An error is when some part of your app doesn't know what to do, basically. And you can have errors caused by different things. You can have errors that are caused by your users, or you can have errors that are caused by the app itself. So let me give you some examples. An error caused by a user. Let's say that a user enters the wrong password or enters the wrong username. Well, so your app is going to ping your backend to go check that user's credentials, and let's say that password is wrong. Well, you got to be able to receive the error message that, hey, that's the wrong password. So that's an example of an error that's caused by a user, by a human. An error caused by the app itself or by the technology. So not a human-originated error would be something like let's say that your back-end service is down. Well, your front end is calling your back end saying, hey, I need this information. Well, the back end's not there to respond. So the front end gets an error. So that's an example of an error that's caused by the technology, not so much by a human user. Errors happen. But you don't want to make your users find all the errors in your app. If they do, they're going to hate using your app and you're going to get really, really poor adoption. So what you want to do is predict and solve errors so that users never see them. And you can do that in several ways. You can plan for errors by identifying where the errors might occur. You can conduct manual testing to try to find the errors before you release your app out into the wild. You can also do certain things like automated unit testing. That's specific to error handling. So that means that basically you're writing a bunch of test cases and automating them so that the app kind of tests itself. And if it gets an error in those tests, then the app will check to make sure that it knows how to handle those errors. And if it doesn't, then the test will fail and you can go and you can address the problem. Even with all of this, you might have some errors that will slip through the cracks. And what you want to do is humanize the errors that humans will see. You want to ensure, or rather reassure your users that, hey, the app's working the way it's supposed to, and that if there's an error for whatever reason, that the app knows how to handle it and knows to tell you as the user what you should do. The problem we get is when we have errors that the app doesn't know how to handle. So you get some really robotic technical error message and the user's like, I don't know what to do with this. Error 404, error whatever. Even worse is when there is no error message, but the app just doesn't work. It's just broken. And the last thing you want is for someone to say hey, this is broken. So one thing that you want to do when you are trying to humanize the error messages, so that when there is an error, that a human knows how to interpret them, you want to incorporate some kind of branding and voice. So you want to help the user feel the way that you want them to feel when they get an error. That means helping them feel that the app isn't broken, so they can feel secure because the app knows exactly what to do and how to handle the situation. Now, when it comes to planning for errors or trying to anticipate them before they even occur, one thing you can do is you can review all of your user stories and you can say, well, where might these errors possibly occur? So for example, logging in or resetting a password, there are a lot of opportunities for errors in some kind of human front-end, back-end exchange. So you can anticipate what those errors might be and identify them in, for example, a list of errors, and then also humanize the message that the user receives if the error occurs. You can write out separate user stories for errors if you want. I personally don't like to do that. I like to make the user story around what the user is trying to accomplish, like the job of the user, and then attaching everything else to that user story kind of as an appendage, right? So you've got your user story, you got your mockups, but you also have a list of potential errors that might occur, and then the messaging that you want to have happen if that error occurs. Some designers or developers might not like doing it that way, but I like to focus everything that's related to user story to that user story. We'll go through an example of how to plan for errors, or kind of chart what we call the unhappy path in our user story map. So we'll do that here coming up soon on SWAT It, the Software Innovation Lab. We'll talk to you soon. Join us again. Videos are published every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 12 noon Mountain Time.